Hi. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through a couple of preparatory exercises for shoulder stand, which we're going to be doing in my live classes this month. Shoulder stand is an inversion pose, which means the um, hips are above the heart, which has the effect of calming the nervous system. It also is slight throat compression, which can be good for the thyroid. But it's one of those postures where it requires quite a lot of weight and stability in the shoulders, as well as making sure the neck doesn't feel under supported, which is why I've paired it with our side plank and so much shoulder work this month. It's so we can feel really warm and ready to invert in that way. So what you'll need is a thin blanket. I think is helpful in supporting the bones of the shoulder and also giving the back of the neck just a little bit more room to maintain its curve. A chair, so the seat of a chair, and secured, so at least 2 of the legs on the mat, preferably 4 if you have the room, just so that when you press down into it, it's not sliding away. And then I've got a bolster here. You could also stack a couple of couch cushions. They're not absolutely necessary, especially if you find plow pretty easy to get into. But plow, halasana, which is one of the preps for going into shoulder stand. If that posture is a bit challenging, it can be nice to have a higher up surface to land your shins and feet on, which you'll see in a moment. Okay, so we're going to start lying down. You want your feet where the chair is, the bolster just above your head. And with your thin blanket folded into a nice neat triangle, you're going to lie down over it so that the top kind of blade edge of your shoulders is right at the edge of that blanket. So I need a little bit more room. I'm going to slide that. Okay, so just my kind of the base of my neck up is off the blanket and my shoulders are right on it. So I'm going to take my feet and bring them to the seat of my chair. And I'm going to bring my hands down. Now, as I do this, I'm going to take a tiny, tiny tilt of the chin. But I'm going to try and maintain some length in the back of my neck and a little bit of length in the front of my throat. The front of my throat is going to get a little bit compressed, but I'm going to try not to collapse into it. So provide a little bit of resistance there. So I'm going to press my feet into the seat and start to lift my hips. Don't worry about rolling up through the spine. Simply just lifting the hips in one piece. And the higher they come, the more weight I start to take into my shoulders. Okay, so I'm practicing taking weight into my shoulders, maintaining a good bit of space in the head and neck. I'm trying not to let it collapse like so. Yeah. And then I bring it back down. So all that prep we did in the glutes, the working on the strength of the side body and the hips, is to help make this action a bit more possible. Okay, and once I'm here, I can practice. The next step that would happen is to kind of slide those shoulder blades under, elbows in, and just press the palms down. And then lower back down. Whew, that's challenging. Okay, so now I'm going to lift my legs up. The wider I take them, the more room my pelvis has to move. And I'm going to start to swing them back over my head. Now, because you have a blanket underneath you, that's an extra little bit of effort. So this part is actually easier if the blanket's not there. However, I still find it's helpful to have a little bit of support. So as I've kept it quite thin so as to minimize how much I'm having to roll over. But if this part is really challenging for you, with this, you can take it out. Okay, so I'm going to start to rock my legs behind me, and I'm trying to use my low belly to bring my pelvis up and over my shoulders. So we're working towards plow pose, halasana. Okay, and I'm pressing into my hands. I'm really trying to curl my tail. Again, I'm using the momentum of my legs to make that happen. Now, don't do what I just did, which is to look to the side. Try to keep your head exactly where it is to minimize any strain that we put on the sides of the neck, okay? Or any distortion of the spine. Okay, and then if eventually you start to bring those legs over, I've landed them on my cushion, right? So I've got a little bit more space from my spine. If my feet were on the ground, it would be a slightly bigger flexion movement of the spine. So once I get myself here, I can take my hands to low back and start to crawl my elbows in and take a couple of breaths here. Now, throughout the month, we'll be working towards the actual shoulder stand. So the next step would be to lengthen your sitting bones up towards the ceiling. Notice how my spine got longer. I went from rounding to lengthening up. Whether your toes are on your bolster or the ground, you push into the surface. I'm pressing into the backs of my arms to support my shoulders and neck, and I'll take one foot up, and then maybe take the other foot up. So you could stay with one foot up. You don't have to take both. You kind of stop where you feel is a good place for you. Now I'm looking, I have several places I can look. Some people say towards toes, some say towards knees, could look towards pubic bone or navel. I like to look a little bit higher just to maintain the neck space. And I'm trying to relax as much as I can my head and neck whilst not collapsing. Keep reaching your sitting bones up, your toes together, and pressing the thigh bones back. Slow breaths. And when you're ready to come down, bring one foot back, then the other. You can bend the knees, relax your arms. And as you're ready, slowly, 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 roll down. Okay. You can rest your legs on the chair. Take a moment here, breathe. You might even massage the neck a little bit. Okay, there are plenty of counter poses to this, one of them being fish. Do feel free to do that if that's in your practice, but we're not going to go through that, just to minimize any more distortion of the neck that might happen since we're all practicing online and I'm not in the room with you. One thing that might help unwind is to gently turn your head right and left. Okay, take another couple of breaths here on your own, just allowing the spine to reset. No sudden moves. When you're ready, you can roll to your side. Feel free to take a downward facing dog. You could also just come back up. Okay, so that's it. If you haven't visited the standing posture sequence or the warm-up sequence to get a sense of the other movements we're going to be doing in class, go ahead and check those out. And I really look forward to seeing you in one of my live classes where we put this all together. We talk about the theme, there's breath work. So there's a lot of other layers and elements that get added in. But these tutorials are here for you when you have questions or want to work out a little bit some of the kinks in the more complex movements in our class. So I hope this video and all the videos that I offer on my channel help to support you in your practice, and I look forward to seeing you in a live class soon.